Good morning. I have to separate my pages. It is a truly wonderful day today, isn't it? Really, they all are. But this day is especially great because we have arrived. This is our last talk on anger. Yeah, it is the final step in letting it all go and setting ourselves free from that imprisonment of our simmering and smoldering and sometimes admittedly explosive emotions, right? And that is a big deal because I have a very special kind of ceremony planned for us so that we can all begin to see and feel our anger melt away. But first, let's explore a little bit more. So thanks to A Course in Miracles, we learned that there are only two states of being, right? There's love and fear. So there's love, that's kindness, compassion, empathy, supportiveness, peacefulness, all of the good stuff that we put out in the world and that we take in, okay? All those warm fuzzies, right? Do people still use that phrase? Because I think it came out in the 80s. Are people still saying that? No? Okay. I am now. We're bringing it back. Okay, so it's all the good stuff, right? It's all the cuddly, wonderful stuff that you want to celebrate. Okay? Everything that isn't the cuddly stuff falls into the spectrum of fear. And it is quite a spectrum, but it is still all fear. And I think Marvin Rolnik, who you will remember is like our ACIM, Course in Miracles mastermind, he said the most wonderful and incredibly accurate thing during one of our classes. And if you come to class, you will remember this. He said, there is one language that everyone in the world is fluent in. Victimeses. Right? He's not wrong. As uncomfortable as it is, he's not wrong. Anytime that we think that someone has hurt or offended us or hurt or offended those around us, because we do get offended on others' behalf, right? We are speaking victimese every time we do that. And as I was figuring out what I wanted to say today, Marvin's universal language principle got me wondering if there were jokes about the theme of being a victim that were actually funny. Because I knew there were probably jokes, right? But there were, I assumed, jokes at other people's expense. Where we laugh at others' misfortune. And I don't find that particularly warm and fuzzy, to bring that back yet again. See, I told you I'm bringing it back. But they exist. They do. Take these, for example. And I know somebody who's really going to love this one. My friend, David, was the victim of ID theft. Now we just call him Dev. Okay, how about, what is the number one favorite drink of cold and flu victims? Coffee. Okay, what does an earthquake say to victims of its tremors? Sorry, my fault. Okay, and here's this. So this detective was interviewing a victim of assault. The victim described the assailant as a leather box with a handle on it. The culprit was arrested only 3 minutes later. It was a briefcase. Yeah, that was great. I think I groaned out loud when I saw that. I heard that one, yeah. Finally, how about this one? A lawyer was cross-examining a coroner during a murder trial. Did you check the victim's pulse? No, I did not. Did you check if the victim's breathing had stopped? No, I did not. Did you check for any signs of brainwave activity? No, I did not. Then how do you even know the victim is dead? Well, his brain is in a jar on my desk right now. But for all I know, he might be out practicing law somewhere. I was treading some troubled waters there, but that was cute. Now, one might think that I'm being insensitive by telling you all of these jokes about victims. One might think I'm being rude. And believe it or not, if one thought those things, they would be thinking in victimeses, right? And although we may believe that our anger is inspired by things other than a direct identification with being a victim, when it is closely examined with an honest eye and a heart that's open to the beauty, hear this, the beauty of allowing vulnerability, we can see that it's based in fear of some kind. And although the ego may make you bristle at what I'm about to say, the way I see it, a reaction coming from a place of fear is a fight response against the idea of being victimized, right? And if that did inspire ego to start hollering a bit, be with it, okay? This is going to be useful, so let it simmer, because you're going to have a chance to transform that in a few minutes. So just sit tight and let it be what it is, okay? One of the most important things that we learned during the course of our talks is that there really is a divine hand. There really is a divine love behind everything that is. And we got to see proof of it the Sunday that Daniel Nahmod came to perform for us. And when we trust that, when we trust that there's this divine hand behind everything, we're able to see evidence of that in our lives. We stop indulging ego and trying to assert some kind of control, right? When we trust Spirit to hold us, we know that there's no such thing as control. And so we have no reason to fight. We also learn to stop looking at all of the ways that we can judge other people, right? We learn to stop trying to keep track of what everyone else is doing. Remember the bowling analogy? So we stop keeping track of all the other scores in the very crowded bowling alley. And we start holding ourselves accountable for our own score, right? We start holding ourselves accountable for what we're doing and how it may be affecting others, to act in ways which show who we truly are, which show that we recognize our oneness, and to make sure that we address and rebalance any situations where we realize that we have demonstrated any other belief other than oneness. Okay? When we are paying attention to and taking care of our own beeswax, right? When we do that and we stop worrying about what everyone else is doing, gradually we begin to realize that we have stopped reacting in ways that are anything less than loving. It's true. Now, last week, I told you the full story of the two wolves fighting inside of every one of us. I told you the whole story. There's one light and one dark. And Dee, if you would please, Dee has a gift that I would like to pass out. Something to help you realize the importance of these exercises. So inside of us, we have these two wolves, one light, one dark. The dark one is made of ego and anger and envy, greed, resentment, lies, right? All of that painful, hurtful stuff. And the light one is good. It's joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, kindness, all of that beautiful, sacred, prayerful stuff that we don't even realize is prayerful when we're doing it. Hey, each of those wolves is always vying for your attention, right? In the version of the story that most people know, the question is asked, which wolf will win? And the answer in that version is what? The one you feed. But that's not the whole story. In the real Cherokee proverb, the answer is if you feed them correctly, they both win. If you choose to feed only the light wolf, The dark one will be hiding around every corner, waiting for you to become distracted or weak, and then it will seek opportunities to jump and get the attention that it craves. Okay, it'll always be angry and it'll always be fighting that light wolf. But if you acknowledge the dark wolf, it is happy and the light wolf is happy, so we all win. Because the dark wolf has qualities that you may need sometimes, right? Tenacity, courage, fearlessness, a strong will and strategic thinking. And the light wolf has compassion, caring, strength, and the ability to recognize what's in the best interest of all. So the light wolf needs the dark wolf at his side. To feed only one would starve the other, and that one would become unpredictable and uncontrollable. And we've seen evidence of that in the world, right? Uncontrollable lashing out. To feed and care for both means that they will serve you well and do nothing that is not a part of something greater, something good, something of life. Feed them both, and there will be no more internal struggle for your attention. And when there is no battle inside, you can listen to the voices of deeper knowing that will guide you in choosing what's right in every circumstance. And this is a quote, said, "A person who has peace inside has everything. A person who is pulled apart by the war inside them has nothing." How you choose to interact with the opposing forces within you will determine your life. Starve one or the other, or guide them both. Now, you'll notice these little things in your hands. They have two colors. Every single one of them is made of two colors, representing the two wolves. And they have these cool little pop bubble thingies in them, right? Stick them on your keychain or carry them in your pocket. And when you feel like you're starting to boil a little bit, I'd like you to pull it out. Use that to remember to pull that out. And if you have to, pop those little bubbles until you find the calm, right? Until you can start to approach clarity. Because through this story, we looked at the idea of using that impulse of anger as an alarm, signaling us to examine where that feeling is coming from. Okay, so it is sounding the bell that you need to pay attention to what's going on behind this impulse. You need to figure out where that feeling of fear or vulnerability is that's inspiring that defense. And as we've said throughout all of these talks, if the feeling of fear and vulnerability behind that angry impulse isn't clear, if that anger alarm that is screaming isn't quieting down enough for you to see clearly what set it off, you call out to that inner voice of divinity and ask for help in seeing the situation through eyes of love. Now, while I was writing all of that beginning part that I've just told you, my incredible, amazing, wonderful, beautiful, perfect husband, with whom I celebrated 22 incredible years of marriage yesterday, well, we didn't exactly celebrate. We worked through it. We're celebrating tonight. Well, he was having a rather loud conversation with our incredible, amazing, wonderful, beautiful, perfect son, Connor. And what inspired that loud conversation, you asked? Well, what had happened was, here's the backstory. So Connor, since his earliest days, when he was just wee, he has been car obsessed. Like big time. He was in diapers, and our oldest Joey had a big tub of Hot Wheels. Okay, Connor could not yet walk. He would take the cars out one at a time and line them up from one end of the house to the other. And if you moved one, he would freak out. He'd go, oh, and he'd like shake his arms and turn pink. And then I realized within about a year of him doing this, he was sorting the cars by first sedans versus commercial / sporty vehicles, like things that looked like it had a purpose. and then trucks, and then they do like the Oscar Mayer Wiener bus and things like that. See, he had grouped them. And then a little while after that, I realized that except for red, he was lining them up by color. This is this child. So he is just a couple of weeks away from turning 21. And he has been studying every aspect of cars since literally before he could talk. He is a walking encyclopedia of car facts. Don't believe me? Just ask him sometime. You'll get more than you bargained for, so be prepared. But he will have the answers. He knows everything from models and like what makes them different from literally one year to the next to the engineering behind them and like what cool bibs and bobs there are in the mechanics of it. He's the best mechanic I know, and he's not a mechanic. Not technically, but he's also the one that I trust because I can ask him and he knows right off the top of his head what the issue is, and then he can fix it. So he came to me about a week ago and he told me about this dream car that he'd found online. This was a 20-plus-year-old Acura Legend, which I had no idea was his dream car until that very moment, and I told him it was not a good idea. Why? Because he has two cars. He has two, okay? He has the Camry that he got from Mike when he got his license, and he has an Acura RL that he says is a Honda. I don't understand the math of all that, but he bought that from the neighbor only a few months ago, and he wanted this new car, and I said, you should not do this. And he argued and he's stubborn. And so after about 20 minutes of him explaining and me saying, nuh-uh, I finally gave up and I said, you need to talk to your dad. You need to talk to your dad. And he kept going and I said, talk to your dad because we cannot fit 5 cars in our driveway. That isn't going to work. We have a normal house. We're not the Lenos, okay? And part of the reason that I said it was a bad idea was because he's always working on cars, like perpetually. He'll get home from work, he'll go outside and he start tinkering, okay? And because he's always working on them, whether it's making like actual repairs or he's just souping them up some way or other, he's making messes and he's not cleaning them up pretty much ever. So I could see where this was going to go, but then nothing happened. He said the guy didn't respond to any of the people who had inquired. And I thought, okay, well, this is off the table. And then I got home yesterday and there was a new car in our driveway. There was a new car just sitting there. Now, I'm going to back up a little bit because when I told him about this car, and I reiterated over and over, you need to talk to your dad because this is not working on my end. I said, if you get that car, you need to return the Camry suspension to where it was because he has lowered it so far that he can't get over the speed bumps to park by the store. You know, and I was like, you put Luke, my youngest, and 2 of his friends in that car, and it's a sled. Okay, so I said, you need to return that to its suspension. Apparently what Connor heard was, go ahead and get the car if you raise the suspension. That is not, in fact, what I said, okay? So yesterday evening, I see this car, and I said to Connor, did you talk to Dad? And he said no. But if he doesn't let me keep it here, I'll just go get a parking permit and I'll park it on the street. It was in the driveway. And he still hadn't talked to Dad. Dad thought it was one of his friend's cars that he was working on. So that wasn't good. And bottom line, Mike found out, mostly because I said, hey, Mike, that's Connor's. You should probably talk. And Mike was not happy, understandably, right? But although their discussion on the matter wasn't even initially even close to friendly, mostly because Connor wouldn't listen to Mike's very logical and reasonable explanation of the why nots, I was surprised that it mellowed out a lot more quickly than historically it would have. And after a while, this was a trip. I could hear conversational, almost amicable tones coming from that room. So what was the fear behind that initial anger? I think Connor's was probably something like, if I talked to you about it, you would have said no without listening to me. And I wouldn't have been able to have this car that I've been obsessed with for years. I don't believe that you understand how important this car is to me, and I don't believe that you care about my feelings. That sounds about right. Okay, Mike's was probably along the lines of, this home, which I work really hard for, and which you are making a mess of with your tools and your car parts and your projects and the clutter and the rags and the garbage, it's just going to continue to get messier and messier as you bring more and more vehicles. And I'm going to be stuck dealing with that bigger mess, plus potentially significant damage or more stains from oil spills, from all your new mechanical endeavors that come with a new car. I may have to deal with the cost of insurance or parking tickets or any number of other needs that you're not thinking about. And the garage that I worked really hard to turn into my woodworking shop just gets messier and less accessible. I don't believe you understand how important it is for me to have a space for my own hobbies. I don't believe you respect everything that I do for you, and I don't believe that you care about my feelings. Plus, I now feel like you intentionally deceived me. That was pretty valid, right? They both had their points. And all of that unspoken vulnerability could have turned into quite a nasty argument. Things like that tend to do it, right? As a parent, I have seen it many times. But here's the thing. They both used that initial impulse to react in anger, which for a little while, they indulged it. Okay, but they used that to refocus. And then they listened to each other and tried to meet in the middle. I have no idea where that conversation went because he was asleep by the time I came to bed. I don't know where it went, but Connor seemed awfully chipper when he left. So they resolved this discord by evaluating their feelings and becoming willing to hear. And that's exactly what I've been trying to teach through these talks. Mike and Connor's experience last night, I will note that I may be wrong with the outcome, but pretty sure. Was it good? Were you guys were good at the end, right? The car's still there, he says. So they're proof that it can be done. But what do we do with the anger that we've been holding on to for a while? What do we do with that anger that we have fed so much that it's hard to see what that truth behind it might be? That anger that's turned into resentment and it's been hurting us to carry around. Okay, you all probably saw the big bowl of water as you came in, the narthex. There are two more just like it up here, and I'm going to ask my volunteers. Clark, can you come down and help with this? I'm going to ask Gina and Clark to come up, and there's a couple plates here with pens and stuff. I can't see if Clark sees me. Do you see me? He's coming. He's moving, he's walking. I see him. I'm stalling because it's a journey. So they're going to come up. There are some trays here with little slips of paper and some pens, little markers. In a moment, I'm going to lead you in a meditation to bring up any of those feelings of anger or resentment, any of those feelings of pain and victimization, and prepare them for release. At any point during the meditation, as you become aware of any of these thoughts and feelings within you, please raise your hand. Even if that begins when we're only a few words into the meditation, at any point, raise your hand. Clark and Gina will be keeping their eyes out, figuratively. I had to make that make sense for a minute. I caught myself. They're going to be keeping their eyes alert. That works much better. for those hands. And when you raise your hand, they will come to you with these little slips of paper, and you take a pen. You're going to write down on that paper, make sure you only use one sheet at a time. I asked them to give you a few at a time. We've got 400 of them, so I think we'll be fine. So you don't need to limit it. Write down a name of a person that you want to release from these feelings, or a word or a phrase that represents a situation that you want to release from these locked in feelings, right? Write them down, and then when you're ready, bring your slips of paper up to one of these bowls, any of the three, and mindfully place each page into the water. Then you'll see a little like paint stir stick next to it. Just run the stick through the water one time, gently. And I want you to do this with the following intention. I release this to you, Spirit. I am willing to see this through your eyes. Please guide my vision to clarity. And that message is going to stay up on the screen, so you don't need to remember it. As you do this, as you put that paper in the water and you run the stick through it, you will see the paper dissolve. It will melt away, and as it does, allow those feelings of fear and anger and resentment that you associated with that paper, let that also melt. Let it be transformed into the peace that comes from knowing that it's now in God's hands. You don't have to carry it anymore. Okay? And again, please do not hesitate to stand up and engage with this powerful exercise of release. This time is for you. You won't be offending me or anybody else if you get up and you do it. That's what it's for. Step into it and allow yourself to experience transformation without reservation. Okay? So now, if you will, please bring your awareness to this space. Feel the floor beneath your feet, the seat supporting your body. Feel the air against your skin and recognize the serenity surrounding you. Realize that you are in a sacred space, held and guided by the source of divine love. And knowing this, you may close your eyes now and begin to focus on your breath. Allow your breath to flow naturally. Don't try to control it or alter it. Simply become aware of it without judgment. Your breathing is perfect, just as you are. So all you have to do is observe it. Settle into calm as its sure rhythm comforts you. At this time, allow yourself to look at any areas of your life or in your thoughts or events that have been a part of your life experience, whether they're in the distant past or very recently. Allow yourself to connect with any times that you've felt angry or fearful or vulnerable. Any times you've felt exposed or powerless or invalidated or unseen or unheard. And as you recognize these moments, which may still hold significance within your mind and emotions, allow yourself to prepare for release by opening to clarity so that you may see exactly where you need to surrender your hold. Who are you holding these feelings toward? What situation keeps you locked in this limiting thought pattern? Allow names, places, times, allow them to come forward into your awareness. Do not engage with them. Simply allow them to come forward so that you can identify a name, a word, a phrase which represents that person's situation or experience. And whenever you're ready, if you've not done so yet, remember to raise your hand and prepare to write down whatever words represent that which you are releasing. Once you've written them down, please quietly stand up and walk to any of these 3 cleansing bowls and wash away any attachment to these people, places, times, and events, the emotions of those that you have identified. Again, drop each slip of paper into the water one at a time, and then very gently stir the water just once to dissolve the paper. And as you do, allow that attachment to what that paper represents for you also dissolve. Know with me in this moment that the only real, true thing of power that exists is love. Divine love flows through all that is. It is, in fact, the very essence of all that is. Our unwillingness or inability to see it yet does not make it any less true or real. Our thoughts of limitation, lack, not enoughness, victimhood, victimization, our thoughts which inspire feelings of anything less than love are fabrications which we ourselves through ego have placed between ourselves and truth. These separating feelings, these beliefs that we've subscribed to which say that you are us and others are them, those hardened areas that we've placed in our hearts toward others, they're not any more real than we allow them to be. They are barriers we believe we've put up to protect ourselves, but they are insubstantial. They are illusions. They are not real, and your belief in them keeps you from stepping fully into presence. In presence is where oneness is fully orbed in all awareness, where there is only one, and where nothing other than one has ever existed. Release those imaginary barriers and enter into the reality of divine lovingness. Release those illusions of separation and enter into unity. And as you do, know with me now that you never need to return to a state of separation. You have a choice right here and right now. A choice to stay the course that you have followed up to now, to continue to believe that anyone is more or less amazing and incredible than you. A choice to stay asleep and remain in the dream of ego. Or you may choose to awaken into right awareness. Because in right awareness, there's no room for any thoughts of wrong. For here, no wrong exists. Again, if you've not done so yet, please raise your hand for some of that paper. Write down any remaining vestiges of anger, any vestiges of emotions or thoughts which cause discomfort. Stand and release them into the cleansing water. Recognize right now that you are made of God, for God is all there is. There's not God and some other stuff that God used to make everything, right? There's just God. You are made by God, and you are meant to be here doing this right now. You are meant to be here in this world, and you are the most perfect vessel for God to work in the world through. You are the only one that God can work through in exactly that way. And so you are wholly cherished. You are wholly adored. You are wholly, holy. Everyone has that same holy, holy function in the totality of this universe. And so we release them from any unmet expectations, recognizing that, like us, everyone else is here to let God express through them. At this time, I'm going to step down from here. You do not need to return from your place of meditation in presence if you're not ready to. After the music fades, we are going to move into our offering as usual, but this does not mean that you have to stop your cleansing ritual, your cleansing exercise. You may still get up, you may still take some paper, write down whatever you need to, and allow it to be released in the water, washed away from your heart and mind. And you may find as you clear things that new things come up. You may continue. Don't be afraid of disturbing anyone. Okay, you can do that at any time from now until the bowls are removed this afternoon. You can feel free to get up and repeat this exercise as many times as you need to. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your experience today. You are all beautiful beyond words. And you honor me by allowing me this gift. Thank you.